Hello and welcome to Vision Denial. My name is Sam and this is World Watch. And if you remember the last video we did, it'll be a little different from how I usually do these contents. We are going through each region's playoffs one by one. And today is a bittersweet one, as this is the last playoff the LLA will have in its current shape and form in regards for a Latin American team qualifying for Worlds, if they do somehow through the new Pan American system. If they do manage through the Pan American system, that'll be great, but with that, I would like all of your thoughts about those who are especially Latin American fans who watch the LLA in any way, shape, or form, what their thoughts about the bittersweet final run of this, as well as where this is going to go off. So, in the meanwhile, just so that people know, the Latin American playoffs played on patches 14-14 and 14-15, and had only one rep to qualify. So, without further ado, let's take a look at the LLA playoffs. Our first reverse sweep of summer. Now, Estral really pushed the envelope in this series between strong coordination, small skirmishing power, and late-game tuck and pull. They managed to pull off 2 wins, but this really came off the backs of R7 fumbling their control in the mid to late game in ways that are honestly really baffling. Otherwise, the actual early game play, map movement, and neutral approaches were a little all over the place for them. Now, R7, for their part, showed some strong coordination and early game approach, and when they aren't fumbling, we have a solid start-to-finish squad. But that's just the thing. The entire time I found myself concerned at how inconsistent the ups and downs were, or any of the ballooning, because otherwise both of these squads hold up well enough to participate internationally. It's just a matter of cleaning up and reducing each attempted overreach or fumble. My MVP of this series is Adi for how solidly he controlled every early game in this series. This was the Latin American LLA closing playoffs, round 1, upper bracket, Estral Esports versus Movistar R7. I don't think either team is ready for the international stage. Infinity has a rough time approaching their style. Now, on the one hand, I appreciate a strong focus on the early game, and you can tell they know their win conditions for each draft that they brought up, but they fail to actually balloon and sometimes even secure leads necessary, making me wonder whether they should look to simplify their drafts into one that enables coordination and maybe some late game scaling. Add those issues with some downright strange macro choices, and I wonder how much they can actually pull off in general as a team. Now, Isurus, for their part, are a lot more coordinated, with stronger sense of map play and some solid flexibility from draft to draft, but their hyper-aggression and regular fumbles take games that they have scaled properly and excellently, and should be an easy close into scrappy and messy affairs that really need cleaning up. My MVP for this series is Kaze for his strong play during team fights. This was round 1 of the LLA playoffs. Infinity versus Isurus. There's only so many times you can rush into a wall before realizing it just doesn't work. Isurus managed to show a great amount of coordination within their play, a good understanding of their win conditions, and balloon leads pretty excellently. Now that said, they have one playstyle, and they don't adjust well at all. Some of the best plays that they show is from moments in which R7 are really fumbling and their team fight and skirmish heavy plays shine. I want to see a wider set of strategies out of Isurus than just, fighting all the time. And we saw a small glimpse of it in Game 3. Now R7 show a much better showing this series this time around. No warm-up games, just solid play with a few hiccups. Okay, maybe more than a few hiccups. I find myself a little frustrated at how much their late game stagnates and it overshadows the rest of their play as a whole, that leaves me with very little confidence that they'll do well on the international stage. Let's hope that they can clean it up so that their macro and neutral gameplay can shine properly. My MVP for this series is Seo for how he kept being at the right place and the right time and right position for each single skirmish. This was the Latin American Round 2 upper bracket, Isurus versus Movistar R7. Our third reverse sweep of the summer. Estral really can't catch a break. Their approach to neutral play, coordination, and the early game really makes you think that they'll pull off a nice clean sweep. But their inability to keep that going at a high level and another situation where they're dependent on their opponents fumbling means that this is the end of their journey here. Now, Infinity, for their part, commit the cardinal sin at its worst, needing warm-up games. At this stage, it shouldn't take you being one game away from elimination to actually commit to your style. And it's a very fun, aggressive style, looking to force errors where need be and to check their opponents on their coordination. I find that some choices around their macro play and neutrals are a little questionable and won't hold up on the international stage, and that needs to be cleaned up very quickly for their upcoming rematch. My MVP for this series is Grell, who really enabled his team's aggressive style to its fullest. This was the lower bracket round 1 in the LLA, Estral versus Infinity. I wouldn't trust either of these teams to represent the LLA. Now, Isurus is such an explosive team with solid coordination, some strong approach to ballooning leads, a good understanding of their win conditions, but they had some sort of plan for this series, and it was frankly a really stupid and untested plan that they tried over and over and over again, and it never considered to them to just adapt at any point, change something. And it looked like they were playing as if they thought that they were that much better than Infinity. And if Infinity had not improved since their last series, that could have been true. But they did improve with better proactive play, more consistency in their coordination and team fighting, no warm-up games. Honestly, Infinity improved, but that does not mean that they were good. And much of my concerns aren't gone from this team. But something that is in their favor is how improvement is a solid indicator of a potential good representative for the LLA on the international stage. We'll just see if that carries through to the finals. My MVP for this series is Trigger for how much he carried these skirmishes. This was round 3 of the lower bracket of the LLA. Isurus Gaming, or just Isurus, versus Infinity. Congrats to Movistar R7 on being the 10th team to qualify for Worlds, although not with some concerns. Infinity have clearly shown their improvement from coordination, vision, neutrals, especially with no warm-up games to be seen. However, their lack of proactivity towards their win conditions, on top of the strange macro choices and micro errors, means that they just didn't do more than just wait for their opponents' win conditions to come through and try to punish all of their errors. Movistar R7, for their part, are a lot more proactive with some incredible coordination, especially during skirmishes, and a solid sense for their win conditions. They have all the right ingredients to be a strong representative for the LLA, but my main concerns from them are still not fixed. Their late game is a lot sloppier than their early game, which is to say something because that isn't really that clean either. They don't balloon leads consistently, and closing out games seems to be fairly difficult for them. And their overzealous plays slows down their pace considerably, allowing their opponents to really punish more mistakes that are unforced. I don't think this is a Worlds contender team, but there is something there with enough polish that could create upsets for some of the up-and-comers at Worlds. My MVP for this series is Kain, who was playing, frankly, out of his mind. This was the grand finals of the LLA, Infinity versus Movistar R7. And we have it! Movistar R7, or for what many people have remembered them as Rainbow 7 for a very long time. Honestly, out of every single team that the LLA has had, I think this team is the best representative for them. Like historically and currently. I don't think they're quite Worlds caliber quite yet. There is quite a ways to go, frankly. If I remember how I put it when they went in specifically, is that there's less consistency in regards to their late game. They're very sloppy. There's no strong confidence in me that as the LLA guards in terms of who they're sending, that they'll be sending somebody who will make a splash that'll do like a crazy run very deep into the tournament. But I do think that as a team that could represent the style and play and fun and fervor and raw aggression and passion, this is going to be a great team. I know for a fact that these guys, Rainbow Seven is going to create some upsets. It will be fun. And it's going to be a shame not to see another LLA representative afterwards. I say that with very strong confidence, as if somehow they might not, as if they're never going to be able to do it. But we're losing 5 LLA teams to contention in international tournaments. 2 of them are going to go in the North and South Conference for the Pan American League, and that feels bad to me, quite frankly. And I've talked about the death of the smaller regions now that we've only gotten back to the 5 big regions. That, to me, I really hope that Movistar R7 here manages to polish up so much and show the world that this was a mistake, quite frankly. That this was just a big error on their part, and that they shouldn't have tried to close them down. Those are my thoughts, at least. From expectations, we'll see how the other teams round out and how much they will have, what kind of a hurdle they'll have to climb, especially since they are within the second lowest expected seed to win anything from just seeding in general. But I would like to hear your thoughts. Like I mentioned at the start of the video, I would love to hear the thoughts, especially of LLA representatives, through what is frankly a travesty. It just all in all. But I would also like to see how excited some of you are for this particular team to represent, and what your favorite series was of this whole playoff. I do think the finals was definitely a strong highlight of showing capability. Thank you again for all of you who have watched. The next playoff to finish is the Brazilian League, if I remember correctly. No, it's the PCS. It's the Southeast Asian League, and then also at the same time, Europe. So with that, I will see you then around the first.